a joyful little girl whose world felt safe, until it didn't. Her story begins with sunlight, school bells and watermelon fields, and ends in the quiet corners of a house where secrets were kept and innocence began to fade. This is me, 6 months old. I didn't know yet what pain was, or fear, or shame. I only knew the world through touch and light, my mother's hands holding me steady. This is where my story begins. My name is Iman. I was born in the late 1950s in the Middle East, the youngest of 6 children, 4 boys and 2 girls. I was told later that there had once been another baby girl born just 18 months after my sister. She was baby number 4. One day, while my mother wasn't looking, she grabbed a sunflower seed and put it in her mouth. She choked before anyone could help. She was gone. I heard it was a hard time for the whole family, especially for my mother. The oldest siblings was Hakim, 15 years my senior. Then came Ahmed, 13 years older. My sister Muna, 11 years older. Omar, 4 years older. And Saad, 2 years older. In those early years, I was a happy child who loved to play with my brothers and the neighborhood kids until dusk, running and laughing until our cheeks were red and our feet were dusty. We didn't have manufactured toys. We made our own out of sticks, paper, and whatever scraps we could find around the house, in the yard, or outside on the street. We had so much energy and it was so much fun. We played until my mother called us in for dinner. The aroma of her cooking filled the house with warmth. My father was the fun parent. He loved his bottle and his women. He would pile us into his small car and drive us to our relative's watermelon farm. We'd crack open ripe melons under the sun, the sweetness running down our hands. To a 5-year-old, the farm seemed endless. Rows and rows of green stretching toward the horizon. My siblings and I would load a couple of watermelons into the car to take home, proud of our harvest. Those were beautiful days. I cherished my one toy, a large doll with long blonde hair and a fluffy dress. When I wasn't holding her, brushing her hair, or changing her clothes, she lay in her cradle. I would swing her gently until she fell asleep, and then I would fall asleep beside her. When I went outside to play, she came with me. She sat on the sidewalk watching us play. My brother Saad loved animals, especially his cat, and the little chicks running around the yard. Omar was the smart one, quiet and reserved, my mother's favourite. Our house was large enough for all 8 of us. 2 bedrooms downstairs. My mother and I shared one, Muna had the other, and 3 upstairs. My father had his own room, while the 4 boys shared the remaining 2. We had no central air conditioning. Summer nights were unbearably hot. When the sun went down, we carried our lightweight mattresses upstairs to the cool, freshly rinsed tiled rooftop. It was my favourite place. 8 rolled-out mattresses scattered all over. Mine was next to my mother's. Every night she would carry her favourite metal cup full of cold water upstairs and set it on the brick wall fence, in case one of her children woke up thirsty in the middle of the night. I would sit on the mattress and carry on a conversation with the rest. Then we would all quiet down, full of excitement. It was story time. My mother would start to speak, sharing true stories from her childhood. She called them the good old days. Those were some of my favourite memories. When she finished her story, I would lie there counting stars until sleep overtook me. My school stood right next door to our house. Every morning, 6 days a week, I walked the short path between the two. Fridays were our day of rest. I loved learning. The smell of chalk, the sound of laughter, and the joy of being surrounded by friends filled my little world with light. Friday was a holy day. I remember going to the mosque with my mother, her long scarf flowing softly as we walked together through the narrow streets. The air smelled of jasmine and warm bread from nearby bakeries. The women gathered in quiet reverence, their voices low, their prayers steady and rhythmic. I sat beside my mother, watching her lips move silently, her hands all lifted toward heaven. I didn't always understand the words, but I understood the feeling. Peace, the cool marble floor against my knees, the echo of the Imam's voice, the faint rustle of prayer mats, all of it felt safe. For that short time there was no shouting, no tension, no fear. Only the soft hum of faith and the comfort of being next to my mother. When we walked home afterward, the street seemed brighter. My mother would stop at a vendor's cart to buy sesame bread or sweet dates. She would smile at me, and for that moment I felt like the world was gentle again. One day, Hakeem, 21 at the time, took the wheel of our little VW bug for a family outing. 6 of us squeezed inside, no seat belts. An army truck followed behind us. Hakeem was talking, not watching the road. He lost control. The car rolled down the hill and landed upside down. We screamed and cried. I remember lying on what had become the car's ceiling, watching drops of blood fall onto my face. The soldiers ran to help, pulling us out and rushing us to the hospital. Omar's head was split open, my mother's arm was broken, and the rest of us were bruised and scratched. Hakeem walked away without a scratch, silent. My father was a regional post office master. When he came home drunk, he would beat my mother. I sat in the corner and cried. When he got sick and vomited on the floor, it was Moona who cleaned it up. I hated those days, and I hated myself for not being able to fix them. My sister Moona was 17 when my parents decided to marry her off to a total stranger. She didn't know him and had never met him until they were engaged. She begged my parents not to do it, to let her finish school. But the decision wasn't hers to make. She tried to take her own life, but she was caught. She got married and moved away. When she left, I stood by the window and watched the car disappear down the dusty road. Her laughter used to fill every corner of our house, and now the silence felt heavier than ever. I missed her warmth, her voice, the way she brushed my hair and told me stories at night. I didn't know it then, but part of my childhood left with her that day. I was 6 years old, and my world began to change in ways I didn't yet understand. The joyful, full of life little girl I had been no longer felt safe inside her own body. Someone I trusted became the source of a quiet wound I would carry for years. What happened to me did not end in a single moment. It continued over the next 2 years. slowly shaping how I learned to move through the world. How to be careful, how to be silent, how to survive. I remember trying to be good, quiet, and obedient because that was what I believed would keep me safe. I taught myself to stay calm, to keep smiling, to pretend everything was normal even when nothing inside me felt that way. My father's cousin, an older man who often visited, was part of those years. What once looked like simple play and laughter became confusing and frightening to me. I didn't have words for what was happening, only a growing fear that followed me from day to night. By the time I was still only a child, my world no longer felt like a place of comfort. I felt alone, carrying a weight far too heavy for someone so small to hold. My world looks different now. Colours were dimmer. The air felt colder. Felt like I'd stepped into a place where the light couldn't reach me anymore. I didn't have words for what had happened, only a tightness in my chest and fear that followed me everywhere, even into sleep. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months. I stopped laughing. I stopped playing. When other kids ran outside to chase the ball, I stood by the wall. That year, the 6-year-old girl who loved being a kid disappeared behind the silence. No one saw the change. Not really. I looked fine on the outside, but inside I was learning to survive.